Welcome to Bragging Rights, episode 15.
One of them.
Woo! I've really looked forward to this. Much not. So,
All eyes turned
Still
to
a bit
Josh then.
fresh, isn't it?
it's too fresh, yeah. It's Monday morning, bank holiday, half past 10. Yeah.
Josh has never been up as early as this.
Bit of a change up this week. We're doing Rovers first, obviously, but I think you'll get about 2 minutes because then nothing happened.
Literally, I've got 3/4 of a page.
And then we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about the sponsor. And then,
Are you just trying to fill gaps here?
yeah, 2 minutes talking about the yellow cards and the red cards at FC's game because we don't need to talk about the rest of it. And then we'll just round up with Magic as a whole. Yeah, sound good?
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, and we had a fun journey home, yeah. Yeah, Dean was drunk.
Yeah, and you're not a good driver when you're drunk, are you?
No, I'm not really good at all. He kept shouting at me saying,
We should
"Don't
never-
turn off here. Get out of that field."
You just kept shouting, "Five and drive, five and drive." Apparently it was quite ropey.
There's loads of pissed off farmers.
Maybe we shouldn't joke and advocate
No,
for
we
drunk
shouldn't.
driving.
Yeah, we should
definitely
I
not
am
do that.
joking.
No. Yeah, go on then. Yeah, Rovers first. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what you're going to talk about.
There's a few little things in there, but there's not really a great deal.
I agree, there's not going to be a lot. There's a couple of points and we'll go
Yeah.
through, but it's a bit of a... It was a flat game, really, overall.
Yeah.
So we'll see how far we get, but...
I went into our game hoping that it was another non-event because then we could kind of like get the Rovers bit done with, the FC bit done with, and we could just talk about some other stuff like the NRL buyout and, you know, like do more. But obviously, certain people at FC decided to ruin that. But yeah, go on.
Certain
You've got 15 minutes.
Certain people.
Fill it, I dare you.
Challenge accepted. So yeah, going into the game, it was kind of like the pressure was all on us, which obviously they're playing. I think there was only 6 first teamers in the Salford side. Well, who you would class as first teamers, obviously they've all played first team, but like players like Nicarima, for example. So yeah, it was always going to be one of those games where it was going to be flat, as you've mentioned, and a bit of a struggle. And I don't think we helped ourselves for large parts of the game. I think we struggled. If we'd have played how we have done, that could have been upwards of 80, quite comfortably. We could have been 24-0 up by the time it was 6-0 up. You know, the Bachelor no try, which was a great call, by the way. Like, whoever's noticed that Bachelor has not got on at full speed, that's some spot. Josh is looking at me like...
I was thinking it was a waste at the time.
Yeah, so was I.
I think it was probably one of the best captain's challenge of the weekend. Then
the
there
season, I think,
there
yeah.
was quite a few, but it genuinely was like not only just the fact that he was right and he was right to challenge it and the try was overturned, but also, yes, we know the final result, we know what happened in the game, but for a momentum builder, you've just conceded literally in our first set.
Second minute it was, yeah.
minute first set from us, and to be like no, and that showed like the intent from Salford. I say we know the result, but I loved it as a we're still here to play a game from a Salford point of view because I thought it was a great challenge.
So I was visiting my old man when this happened, so can someone explain?
So
What
second minute, we're attacking 5 yards out from their line. Ball from probably Lytton, I would assume, to Bachelor. Bachelor collects it and scores from like 2 yards out or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the build-up before that, he actually knocks it on. So the ball from
once he's
Lytton,
caught the ball in the collision,
yeah,
he
hits
sort
a
of
Salford
lost-
player, then goes back into Bachelor's arms, then Bachelor scores.
Just like a bit of a
and then
fumble.
Salford's
Full speed.
captain called that
Yeah. At full speed.
in the
it's
second
like-
minute.
Yeah.
That's ballsy, that is.
Yeah.
I loved it. Honestly, because I was like, wow, this ain't going to be not as easy as we expect it to be, but also you ain't just going to get them given. And a bit of like a, come on, ball security, lads. Like, second minute, we don't want to be making errors, because at the end of the day, that was one of our errors in the first half. That is a
Errors.
knock-on.
Errors. Well, we'll get to that. But yeah, it was just a great challenge all round, so definitely credit for that. It was very clunky and bitty from us, I found, but it was always going to be the case. I think when Dean, you mentioned it just before we started while Jimmy was setting up, Rovers have used 26 players this season. Salford have used 46 in 10 rounds, and they're up to squad number 50 already.
That, in terms of player numbers used, that beats us for last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know we had higher numbers on the back. I think we got up to 53,
53, 54, something like that.
But in
yeah.
terms of players used, because our first team squad numbers had so many injuries, we didn't use a lot. I think we only used about 40 last year.
Yeah, they're at 46 already.
And it's only going to go up with the loans
yeah.
that they're going to get in and maybe other players that are going to be leaving. You got to feel for the players that are taking the field.
So like on that aspect, it's kind of difficult to prepare really, because you don't really know what you're facing. Like we spoke about it in the group during the week about the bookies not putting the odds on because they don't put them on until the Salford team is announced, which is what the outcome of that was by all accounts. So, and that's not announced till like a day or two before the game, so you don't really know what you're preparing for in a way.
I get that, and I agree with that. But when you're coming up against a side like Salford or any team like what we were last year, where it's you don't know what you're coming up against. Yes, I agree, but you know that you're coming up against a side that's going to be not well drilled, not got the links and stuff that they need on the field because they're not playing together. It shouldn't really matter. A team of your quality should just be able to go out there, do your thing regardless of who else is on the pitch, and just tear them a new one. And I think you did. I think to say that 50, you could have got 80. I think you may be being a little bit too harsh on your lot.
I mean, I agree with your point.
And I didn't watch it, by the way.
I'm trying to turn this into a question I wanted to ask the four of us, but you three.
Do we need buzzers?
No, I'm going to ask you all in turn.
It's an opinion one.
Yeah. I agree what you're saying, and Wigan being a bit up and down this year for me, but you'd expect the Wigan of last year to have been ruthless and to have got the 80 points, and we are perhaps being a bit harsh saying it was only in the 50s. We had a better second half, but Peters did say afterwards as well that he was trying new positions and new moves, and they was trying things they wouldn't normally do, and that does lead to errors. It was the first half more for me that frustrated me. We had 7 errors, and we didn't really put them under the pump as we should have done, and that was more we wasn't clicking as opposed to we was trying new things, whereas in the second half we did. But the question leading off the back of this, and me and Dean spoke about this briefly before we started recording, we've got a massive semi-final coming up this week. We've got a big game. We had one eye on that. You'd be stupid to pretend that our players didn't. What would you rather have the week before a semi-final with the pressure that's on our club's shoulders for getting so close a few times recently, and to have potentially the best chance ever that we've had in recent times because Wigan are out of the cup and we'd back ourselves against most other teams? Would you rather have that training exercise against Salford, or would you rather have a bit more of a competitive team to play, like the Leeds game the week before, because it tunes you up? And I think it's a real hard one to answer, because what we found ourselves against was essentially a team we knew was going to beat well, one eye on Catalan. What do you think's better for the team? Because I'm struggling to answer.
I'd rather have what Catalan had, and that was a competitive game to carry on that momentum. Yes, they lost, but I'd rather play a competitive game where you can just try and keep your momentum, what you've had from the past few weeks going.
Brings the risk of injury in a
it
bit more,
does,
takes the fatigue on more.
Any game's got the risk of injury, so...
Yeah, I'm with Dean. I think the last thing you needed this week was Salford.
But then looking back on previous weeks, the Salford games come at the perfect time for us. Again, no disrespect to Salford, but we've had a very, very tough period. We've played 2 derbies, we've played Wigan, then we've played Leeds away, which we always have tough games against Leeds. All right, yeah, we've beat them X amount of times, but they're always tough games. They're always close, within a couple of scores or whatever. So,
judging by the way that Salford have been this year, and like I say, I can't comment in full because I didn't watch the game, but judging by the way that Salford have played this year, the way that you have played this year, Rovers will have had harder opposed training sessions at Craven Park than you had at Magic Weekend.
Oh yeah,
on
quite
Saturday.
possibly.
Completely agree. And as I say, I wanted to get your input because I've been flip-flopping both ways. I think I'll lean a bit more towards Craig's side in that it came at the right time, so I'm kind of happier rather than having a more competitive game. For that break that we desperately need, we're still not going to get one. We are playing this weekend. Most of the teams are now finally getting. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about fatigue in your game as well, and you're really looking forward to what is essentially 2 weeks off now. It's not the 1 week you miss, it's the 2 weeks off that you get. We need that as well. We're fatigued. A nice easy run out like that, as you say, harder opposition probably came in a training session during the week or in previous weeks. Also, we come away, looks like unscathed with injury, and it gave us a chance to give people a bit extra time. Burgess, have an extra week to get your head right after a HIA. Davies, another week to get sorted out. A chance to blood in some of the youngsters. Noah Booth, people like that. Doro, things like that. A chance to try a few more things. And also a chance to give people a little bit more of a are going different positions. You know, we know Morg can't play next week. He's cupped hard. So he did so much work. If you watch the game back, he was involved in so much.
He was superb.
Partly because he was probably our best player on the day, but also because he was asked to, because we could run him ragged, because he now gets 2 weeks off because he can't play. So I actually end up only just, if it's 51 to 49%, coming away going, I'm glad we took, let's be honest, the easiest team in the league to play.
Yeah, for me, I think I wanted a bit of a tougher game. Not necessarily like a Wigan or a Warrington or a Derby or anything like that, but maybe playing a team that's sort of 4th to 6th in the league, maybe like a St Helens, you know, that where you're going to get that bit of competition just to keep you going. But then on the flip side, like you say, fatigue's not going to be as high as what it could have been. So we'll just have to see what unfolds.
You'll know this time next week.
Exactly, yeah. That's my heart skips a bit then when you said that. It's like, ugh. So you touched on the errors, 15 in total in the game. So we actually made more errors in the second half than we did in the first. The one thing
again, I think more forgivable in the second half. We was trying more. It was the first half that annoyed, because I think there was 7 in the first half. 7 penalties conceded in the first half, sorry. That's why I was let down, but yeah.
More of an attitude thing, I think, in the first half.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got 15 errors down here, but only 20 missed tackles. Again, it's obviously a lot easier when you're playing a side who don't have them connections and don't have the size to break tackles or have the sort of Super League knowledge and experience to run lines as we would see most teams doing. So, but the one thing that I think Peters will be the most frustrated about is the completion rate, 58% overall.
For you?
58%.
That's
Salford
shocking.
at 72.
See, that's what you don't need, regardless of who you play. That's what you don't need in the run-up to a semi-final. Because, you're playing Catalan, you're probably expected to win. Fingers crossed you don't, from my perspective. But that's what you don't need. You needed a game where you just went. If you're going to play Salford, you need to be going through the motions, clicking, getting your plays done effectively, having a training exercise, and listening to those stats doesn't sound like you took advantage of it.
No, definitely
Looking at the
not.
scoreline, it does. But listening to that doesn't sound good.
That was one. Excuse me, but that was one of the points I made where I said we could have been in the 80s. If our completion rate had been up near 90%, you'd have seen 3-4 more tries maybe on there.
Easily, yeah.
Is that just a product of Peters, like you said, just trying new stuff and things just not working out and it being a bit more of a relaxed training? You know, not being a relaxed training, but like what you would expect in a relaxed training.
Yeah, because what's really hard for us to see, obviously, sort of speaking the plain truth, but we don't know what the game plan is. We don't know what some of the moves are. We're not behind the scenes at the club. So in the second half, we can see these attacking sort of game plan come in. We can see these routes and these lines being run. We can see these tries. We don't know if they're normal or not. We don't know if they're new. We don't know if players are trying something different. And because we're still getting points off the back of them, you sort of forget that actually you probably should have been doing more or maybe a few more chances, maybe a few too many errors, as we say, better completion. But we don't know how that works. Did we try something new every set? So that's why I'm taking a pinch of salt. It's not great going into a semi-final with that, but at the same time, if you're trying new things with new players in new positions and you're giving stuff a bit of a go against a weakened team and you still put 50 past them, we'll lean on the side of positivity for that, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right there. You probably, if you look at it from Peter's perspective, he probably will get more out of that, out of the failures, than he will out of the victories, because he'll be like, right, that didn't work, scrapped. That didn't work, scrapped. So he knows what not to use next week and the following week. So yeah, you have got that.
Yeah, definitely. Mentioned injuries. The only one we suffered was Gildart, which initially looked quite bad. But as the game went on and we had more, it's not looking as bad as it was feared and could possibly be playing at the weekend.
Well,
so.
he went down, and then the commentators, and it was, oh, this looks bad. It was talking like ACL bad, and I was like, oh, this is not what we need. And it was so early in the game.
It did look like that, though.
It did, though, and it looked
It was
bad.
like on the step, wasn't it? He caught the ball. He seemed to like spring up, and it was holding the outside of his knee. And you think, oh, if someone's going down like that, that's.
I won't say always, but it's nearly always the non-contact injuries that are ACLs, MCLs, PCLs not as important, but they are still major. I know, I've torn all 3 in one go.
Fanny.
I know. they always seem to be on them non-contact ones. It's the step the wrong way or just slight opposition, and it did look a bit like that. And then we found out from Jenna not too long later into the game that actually doesn't seem too bad. Physio's had a look, they're happy, precautionary, keep him off.
She said quite not long after that, when it happened, that it wasn't as bad as the first thought. And I'm thinking, how have they come to a decision that quick?
Look, I think the thing is that when a knee like that goes, you've got medical professionals that, your physios know what they're doing. They can instantly check and be like, yes, you haven't had a scan, don't get me wrong, but if you've got flexion, you've got movement, you can walk on it, you can feel around it, that actually this looks like maybe a minor strain or maybe something, just a weird knock.
You also got to think she might still be working on Aussie time, so she's like 10 hours ahead.
Now that is a fair point.
That's a good show.
But yeah, he should be back, which is good. But that was another thing that changed just so early in the game to shuffle again. We instantly went back to... they actually said it wrong on the commentary. They said, Batchelor move out to the wing now. That isn't what they do. Batchelor goes to centre and Hiku goes to the wing. But we had to do that immediately as well. So that changed our game plan inside 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
About the debutants?
Yeah, Noah Booth went really, really well. Good finish for his try.
one error, which was a big spiralling high ball.
Yeah.
We've seen more experienced players drop them. Other than that, I think he went well. He's meant to be an absolute speedster.
He is. I've seen some of his highlights.
I
And-
saw the try in the Boxing Day friendly for Wakefield, and yeah, he's got
Yeah,
a
he
bit,
went
he's
on.
got a bit of
We've
pace on
not
him.
quite seen it for Rovers yet. Obviously, it was his debut, but he didn't even really get a chance to do it either because he finished off like some good moves and things like that, but he wasn't in the space. But apparently, yeah, this guy is going to go.
Rapid, yeah.
So I'm going to bring this up again, because it's one of the first things I thought when I saw your team.
I know what you're going to say.
Kershaw. What's going to happen?
No
What's
idea.
going on? Because you signed this player with Super League experience. He's not an half bad winger, and last week you gave it to your utility player and a
Badge,
centre,
yeah. Wait, second row.
second row, and then this week you've given it to a utility player and a kid.
Yeah.
When's he going to get, or is he going to get a chance in your team? And if not, is there any point in him being there? Because he's good enough to get game time elsewhere in the Super
Oh
League.
yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to loan him to Salford? Because he'll get game time there,
Probably, possibly. I mean, he went to Castiny.
unless they
played
go
there.
bust.
So
We don't know. And for me, you feel for the guy. At the
Yeah,
same time, we discussed this last week. I won't go over old ground too much. We back ourselves on. We trust in Peters. He's not let us down yet. If he's seen something, whether it's that Booth is out training him, and that's why Booth got the nod this week, whether it's because the guy doesn't seem ready, maybe he's making errors, maybe he's fitness. We don't know.
Booth's had more game time this year than him at Hunslet, so he's a bit more maybe game ready than Kershaw.
We don't know.
Maybe.
But Kershaw isn't getting a nod, and
I'm not digging
Let's
on
see.
anything either, but I'm not digging on Peters for not picking
No,
him.
no,
I'm just
I
trying
totally
to
get what
figure
you're
out in my
saying,
head, like you've got this experienced winger, so like not necessarily what's the problem, but does anyone know like what's going to go on with him? 'Cause
I've not heard anything.
if I'm trying to put myself in his mind, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be here. Then like, what's the point in me being here except picking up a paycheck?
apparently he goes around the club calling Peters Little Willie, and Peters just hates it. And yeah, that's just one way to get yourself out of it. No, honestly, joke aside, we don't know. And yeah, feel for the guy, but we trust in it. What Peters is doing, and yeah, what can you say? He's just not getting that chance.
yeah, definitely. So overall, not really brilliant, but delighted with a win to 0 because he had a couple of chances where they could have scored.
Yeah, free breakfast for lads for a nil-in again, which is always good. 2 players for me. Morg was sensational.
Yeah.
He had 26 points on the day, 2 tries, kicked everything, and he kicked
Missed
from
one.
everywhere. Missed one in the end, sorry. He kicked from everywhere. He was like, the one wasn't just scoring on the middle, was we were
No, there's a
scoring on the
couple out
wings.
wide,
and,
yeah.
he was very good. It's amazing what he can do when players aren't hitting him in the face repeatedly. You know, he.
First game this season, he's not had a high shot on him.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm not saying we'll miss him next week, but I bet it's a game he's really
will.
gutted to be missing. Like, he, against his old club, the form he's in, like, it's going to be, we might miss him.
Yeah.
And we might miss the ability of his kicking as well. He is definitely our best kicker, barring maybe Martin, who's injured.
I think you'll miss his kicking, but I think the way that Broadbent's filled in at fullback for the last 2 years, whenever he's been needed to play there, I don't think you'll miss him in that sense, but you'll definitely miss his kicking.
Well, and the beauty for us is that obviously we can't have him for the final should we get there as well. So it's gone now.
So this has changed. I'm sure this has changed because I'm sure it used to be a case of you only got cup tied for like the following round or the following 2 rounds or whatever. It used to be a real stupid, weird rule, and we got caught foul of it with Jamie Thackeray, I think, in
Somebody
2005.
did put online.
Was it like against Rochdale?
Somebody said he'll still get his winners medal if we get there. A Rovers fan on one of the forums, or maybe on Facebook, and someone replied saying it's changed.
He'll get a Catalan medal if Catalan
He won't
win.
be able to play.
He'll get a medal with Catalan, won't he? Because he played for them during the...
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't believe he can play even in the final.
Will he be the first person in history to win? Because Catalan's scrap that. I was going to say, will he be the first person in history to win a winners' medal and a runners-up medal in a Champions
Well, no,
League
because
final?
it's the.
No, but
Yeah.
then I realised as I was saying it.
You're
but-
not in the final yet, Craig.
No.
No, I was on about Catalan as
No, I know
well,
what you
so
mean.
one
I
of
know
us
what you
will
mean.
get there. But I thought both would leave me alone.
But that's Morg, anyways. My other player, and because I had another question on this, and I'm conscious of close time, and you've got some nice points at the end that I would like us to finish on.
Yeah, I've got one.
Jez Litton, he had a stormer again, weakened opposition.
Saw his try.
He played very well. He had 2 tries on the day.
I saw the one that Leyland set up.
Yeah,
Yeah, second
which
half.
was great work from another sort of debutant for us coming in and doing a great effort to set him up.
Leyland won a debutant.
It's his second game for us.
Not his debut though, is
No,
it?
it's not. For a young lads coming on.
Pedantic knob.
And actually, that's his third. 'cause he played
Honestly, I'm
against
so
Oldham
cold.
Can we
sat
just
here,
crack
my
on?
brain doesn't play. They raised the question on the commentary. I'd like to raise it. Litton for England. Where our heads at on that? What do we think?
He's
I mean, he
definitely
was-
in the conversation, without
He
a
was
doubt.
there last year, wasn't he?
Mm.
And he's arguably been better this season than he was last. So I don't think it's a question. I think it's a... I'm not going to go as far as say a certainty, but if he carries on the way he's going, like you can't not.
I'm just trying to think any of
At the minute, I
English...
think he is playing
Walker.
the best.
I don't think
He
he's
is the
great.
best playing hooker in the Super League at the minute. There are better players than him in the league, but they aren't performing week in, week out
English
like he does.
hookers in the league, he's playing the best out of any of them at the minute. So on that, if you're picking on form, he's got to be in
Which
the
is
squad.
Sean Wayne,
Which you should, but then you've got 2 English hookers at Wigan that Sean Wayne's obviously going to pick.
So-
Even if they're not playing good, he's going to pick them, isn't he?
But yeah, just thought it was worth a shout because he's playing that immense, and the commentators brought it up, and I thought, yeah, come the end of the season, probably the
Not
guy.
that I think it's fudged or anything like, or favouritism or anything like that, but
Oh, I do. I'll come out and say it. His Wigan connections.
he still works for him, doesn't he?
Yeah. How can
Like-
you be an international coach and work for a club like in the roles that he does, but then have full power over team selection? Anyways. That's a conversation for another day. So a final point from me that I just wanted to touch on. Obviously, we were aware of the Betfred saying they'll donate £180 every time there was a try celebration. And obviously, I don't know, you didn't watch it. Did you watch our game?
Yes.
The celebration we did, the Bang the Drum celebration. Obviously, some players, like, luckily did his cheer and
But he still did these.
then he did
Yeah.
the Bang the Drum.
which,
So-
sorry to, I know we're on the point, but as a Newcastle fan, up in the tune, and then luckily to do the Shearer celebration, it was just perfect.
It must have been good to watch that at St James's Park as well.
In front of the Gallagher end as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, Bang the Drum. It's a slogan for MND, which is obviously very, very prevalent in our game at the moment. So every Rovers player did that, and then that was in conjunction. There's a guy called Craig Escrit. I used to work with Craig. Top guy. I've known him 20 odd years, and he's suffering with MND. And it was his son that actually came up with that celebration in conjunction with Rovers. So that's why all the Rovers players did it. For those of you that didn't see it, I'm going to give you a demonstration. So it was bang the drum, and then all of that.
It was great.
It was really nice.
It was good.
So,
It was across our points, not a lot to talk about as such in the game, but on a few points. We both had that like almost exact, like we want to talk about this because it's obviously someone, Rovers fan, close to the club, but also
I've
close
even
to
got it
Craig,
on
he
my
knows him.
notes. Celebrations.
Yeah, I just thought it was great and
But
it
yeah.
was so nice.
so yeah, that one's for you, Esky, if you're watching, mate.
Done, right? So
22 minutes.
that's
Predictions then?
What, it took you 2 minutes?
you cold.
It's freezing in here today.
You'll get your coat on, and I'll go to the sponsor then, and we'll talk about the sponsor.
This week's episode is sponsored by Comscaf.
Commercial Scaffolding, or Comscaff, are a Hull-based company formed over 30 years ago.
They offer a safe and professional scaffolding service nationwide.
For services and enquiries, you can go to comscaff.co.uk or call 01482 782 181.
There we go.
Dean's been pulling out his Cole Palmer.
That's every week for me. All right, cold ass.
So Josh put his jacket on while we were talking about the sponsor, and then Amy turned the air conditioning off. So when we talk about travel after the LFC bit, you can take your jacket off again.
I might just be a bit like Mr. Ben. I might just go for outfit changes every time we change something.
Change your camera, change your outfit.
Oh God, do we have? Yeah.
I do not want your black and white jumper.
Black and grey.
Who's does?
Right, we've got 15-20 minutes to talk about FC, but
Feel free to take as long as you want.
Oh,
Go.
yeah. Well, I was right to be worried about that one.
You was.
I said it last week on here. I said it before I left for the game yesterday to the wife, and I think I mentioned it halfway through the game.
I'm going to
the
quickly
group chat
call
as
her
well.
out before we actually get to talking about the game, because the Predictions League, Dean's missus is in it, Hannah, and she said to Dean, "What do you think the score's going to be? I don't know what to put down for FC." And what did Dean say?
Huddersfield by 4, I think.
Dean said Huddersfield by 4. And what did she put?
I don't know.
All by 10.
12.
Oh, is that what she put?
Yeah. So she could have been the only person in the entire league, by the way, that got any points whatsoever, but she'd have got the bonus point as well.
As in our league or...
In our
In our
league,
prediction
not
league.
one
I didn't know if
person
you
picked
meant
Huddersfield.
on Super Bro as a whole.
Yeah, no.
I say something that did tickle me. Last week was talking ahead of the game, and Dean, you obviously was right to be worried about it. We know it now, but you was nervous. We talked about banana skins a lot, like this is a banana skin game. Friend of the pod, Sammy, just immediately messaged me after the game with just a load of banana emojis. And I was like, oh, do you know, like the little one, I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. I was like, when someone's listened, I was like, that's a reference to that. Yeah. So, Sammy, that was fantastic.
It was the reason why I was worried. It was the way we finished last week's game. We looked, and I mentioned it hundreds of times, fatigued, and that sat with me. And it lingered all week with me. And it from the very first whistle, I didn't see the warm up because we was not late getting into the ground, but the players were just walking back off from the warm ups as we got in. So I like to watch the warm ups because I think you can tell a lot from warm ups. How the players are and just the mentality and how switched on the look. So I can't go into that. But from the very first whistle, there was errors, there was penalties. Just the attitude just seemed wrong. And that has come for me from last week, the way we, especially that second half and the way we finished that game. And that was a tough one to take that. Me and Josh spoke before the game, before recording, and I said, we've lost derbies this year, 2 of them, and that result yesterday hurt more than the derbies because of the way we lost the game. I can accept losing a game, no problems with losing a game. It was just the way we went about our business yesterday as a whole, from errors, penalties, cards. It was just all wrong, and it was, excuse my French, it was shit.
I know you're going to talk. We are all going to talk about the cards. I'm sure we'll talk about all the cards quite a bit, but honestly, across the board, the cards are they are very relevant. I'm not saying they're completely relevant, but I'm not here just to bag on you, but it was just poor. You just never looked like you wanted a game. And I did say last week, Huddersfield had players back, they've got a desire to win and they wanted to go for it, and they're still a poor side.
Yeah.
But not really once yesterday, barring a couple of players I mentioned before. I thought Caesar had a good dig. I thought he was really stuck in. I thought Litton had a bit of a go. I thought Cust had a good game for you in some ways.
Yep.
But really, apart from that, you looked like a team that was not wanting to even have a go in that game.
It looked like a team that was ready for 2 weeks off, and the players' heads were already away or whatever they've got planned for the next couple of weeks. Sums it up for me. 2 of our better players for me were Asiata and Hardacre on the day, and I use that term lightly, better. They basically give Leroy Cudjoe a guard of honour to go score his try. Like, that is not the attitude our players have had this season.
All either team needed to do to win that game, or to actually, run away with that game and actually make a performance of it, was start playing rugby. Neither team played well. Neither team really linked well together. Neither team did anything like what they'd be expected to do by the coaches. If Robinson came out and said anything other than he was disappointed in his team at the end of that game, there's something wrong with him. Like, yeah, he got 2 points, but they were just as bad as us.
Their attitude was right. That was the difference, I think.
But on-field product, it was crap from both teams. It was unprofessional from both teams. It was just poor in every single way. And when you were chatting then, all I kept thinking was there's going to be a load of FC fans that comment on this saying, oh, he's got his red and white. I hate that red and white twat that sits in the middle. And yeah, fair enough, you're right to do so. But you're not wrong in what you're saying. We were awful, woeful. Any word you can think of to be negative about that team, I genuinely, I think you can put it. And if Cartwright did anything other than, in your words, throw boots like Fergie in the changing rooms, there's something wrong there as well.
Completion rate 75% for you, which
is
not as bad as it could have been, especially when we've just
Not as
spoke
bad
about
as
how ours was. We spoke last week about, or maybe the week before, my apologies if I'm wrong, but about this whole new culture and that toxicity that has gone, and there doesn't seem to be a toxic nature of a team. I'm not saying that's what you had, but boy, if you was trying to do an impression of what you had last year, that's what you did for me, because not just the main incidents, there was so much of a niggle and a grubbiness to the game in patches and parts, and your players involved in it, and them as well, dragging each other down to a level. We've just watched the video back for the night incident, haven't we, before we started recording? It's just on the stroke of half-time. And the commentator, and I know he's got a job to do and to grow the game, but he's saying, what a great game it's been. Well, he must have been watching something else on his phone, because that was not a fun opening 40 minutes of rugby league.
Awful, wasn't it?
Do you know what it reminded me of? It just so much just popped in my head because I'm rewatching Ted Lasso. You've seen Ted Lasso, haven't you? Do you know when they play the first game against West Ham in season 3, and they show him that video at half time, and they all come out in the second half and just start losing their heads and just getting real aggressive? That's what it reminded me of. All were just dirty. We were aggressive, more so than you should be in a game of rugby. As a team, I think both teams lost their heads, but as a team, I think we just lost it that little bit more. We didn't channel our anger and our aggression in the right way. It came out all wrong. Frustration built up, and you could just tell throughout the entire game.
When we spoke about prior to this, Cust's 1-on-1, I think it was with you, and
Yeah, it was both of us.
he knew he'd stole it 1-on-1, and he threw the ball down. I don't think that was just based on that decision going against him. Yes, he got overturned with the captain's challenge. That frustration of throwing the ball down was just a result of how the game was going as a whole for him and the team. I think that was just the frustration coming out. We aren't playing well. Things aren't going right for us. We aren't helping ourselves. And that summed it up for me, really.
To be fair to Cust, as I said earlier, I think he was one of your players that was having a dig and he was putting effort in. So it was even more frustrating for him, because if he's feeling around him that the team isn't stepping up, and then a decision like that goes against you, it was childish to slam the ball. But I get that it was a full overall frustration coming out, not just one incident.
So I do want to not correct you, but give my point on that. I think every player on the pitch for both teams put the effort in. I don't like it when people come out and say, oh, you put effort in, but we didn't put any effort in. I think we came out there and we put effort in throughout the entire game. Physical effort, but we just didn't channel it in the right way. I don't think any player goes on a rugby pitch and doesn't put effort in.
That's a fair way of putting it. Obviously, saying there's no effort is quite harsh on players. They are professional athletes that go out and play, but there are players that I'm ready for the hate from this that I will bag on. But Price,
Bad game.
Right? Bad game. Well, since he's come, you've only won one game since he joined your club. Right? And
You can't put that on Price, though.
right? You're letting Kudjo, right? That wasn't even a step from Kudjo.
Oh, it was.
He
It was
just
awful.
was like,
It was a little wobble, wasn't
I'll
it?
just walk through you. Like,
I said to you when it showed the replay, I was like, that's embarrassing from Price. And then you were like, no, it's embarrassing from the person before. And I was like, I don't disagree with what you said, but it was also embarrassing.
Oh,
from
yeah, I
Price.
didn't disagree with what you said.
yeah.
It was definitely...
and I think you've got a mistake of him there. I think you need him in the halves, and you need somebody at full back that can tackle. I think that'd help you. You've got to bring Moy back in for me and have a dig with Moy. We wonder where he's out at the minute and see what he's going to do.
Moy deservedly has been took away. I think. I think he had such a poor start to the season individually that I think this break away from the first team that he's having is needed to sort of reset himself, recalibrate, settle himself back down, maybe work on a few things, and then I agree, bring him back in, because we'll touch on someone else. Rapiner. Well,
that little chuckle just says everything.
We're having conversations about things like Bell coming next year, and we're hoping he gets off the cap, and we're like, well, if he don't get off the cap, we'll let him go. And if it's not Rapiner, there's something wrong on the way that the team are performing at the minute. He's awful.
Rapiner was an option for man of the match. How can you bag on him?
Who selects that? Was it Sky by any chance?
Just finish on the Price thing, because I'm not here just to bag on Price specifically, but he was one of the worst examples in your team for me yesterday afternoon on the effort is there but having a poor game, on where he's doing the wrong things, and he's been doing this for me since he joined your club. He would rather go and whine to the referee, be involved in a niggle, be in the middle of the piles and grabbing, and after he's made errors as well. He knocked on from a good spiralling kick that came over the top right, and he got the head pat right. That's what everyone does to each other. It's a bit of a way we've got one over on you, and he's up pushing and shoving and causing aggro, but he's the first one to do it back. It just stinks, and that's where your attitude's wrong.
There was one example that I picked up on, not one on the night, but one that I'm going to say now. The play was happening. There was just about to restart the game for something that had happened. It was in the first half, and Price, instead of watching the play, he's walking back towards the Hull fans for the full back position, and he's looking around like play's just started.
Not switched on,
not looking at what's going on, and I'm thinking that's not the attitude you have. Like, we all make mistakes. That the spiral, it was probably of the day one of the easy catches because he was under no pressure. But you find that's what happens when you're under no pressure. Sometimes you take your eye off the ball a little bit.
I'm not trying to make an excuse for him about that, but if you watch that back, he sets his body ready to catch it, and then he has to move his hands. So the only thing I can think of is that spiral literally just caught the ball.
The commentator says about the wind.
Yeah, it's not the mistake.
It's the reaction.
It's the attitude, because at the end of the day, what you want, and we've spoke about the attitude being the biggest problem for you guys yesterday. Yes, it's not nice someone needling you a bit. It's not nice getting sprayed afterwards, right? And you've not got an ant yet. That happens. But take it, get up, go back and do something for your team. But instead,
channel it in the right way.
He added fuel to the fire, because there was a lot of incidents of coming in, a lot of coming togethers. But what winds me up about him, and this might be red and white glasses, but all I've seen since he's cut him, I've said he's got flashes of brilliance. I've said that he's got great attacking skill and he could be a great player. But boy, is he involved every single time. He's the first one to go and give it. But the moment he gets it back, he wants to cause like a mini melee. You think, come on, get your head in the game. You haven't won this game yet. It's a very close tie. And that was, for me, it was an example of what most of your team were being like.
You see what Flanagan did to him for Cudjoe's try? Don't know if it come across on TV.
Not sure.
He missed the tackle, and he's laid on the floor as Cudjoe's putting the ball down. The Huddersfield players are going to Cudjoe to celebrate. Flanagan goes up to him, rubs his head on the ground, and then runs off, and then comes and celebrates. Mikey Lewis style. Arms out like that. Like little prick.
Yeah, I text a family group.
I love it. I love that. But, yeah.
I text my family group at half time and I said, I'm so excited for the second half because a game of rugby might break out. Like, that's how low the skill level was.
It was really poor. And I'm not going to go down the route, and I didn't want to call you out on this. I'm not going to go down the route of we made them look good. Because Huddersfield turned up with the right attitude and a clear desire to try and do the little things right and win the game. But Huddersfield, at their best yesterday, were still crap.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And
you made them look good.
That's what makes it even harder for me to turn up.
I just had to.
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of comments on this as well, because I did think they were poor as well. You have 13 men on the field. You don't have the night incident. You're probably going to beat them. Like, it was a very poor game.
Half-time would have come 2 minutes too late for us if we'd have gone in. And let's be honest, we'd gone from Cuss getting held up over the line, where if he'd have just moved the ball into his left hand, we're going up. Yeah, it was brilliant. There's no taking away from that. We're going up 2 or 4 points ahead going at half time, because the Ute would have probably gone during that breaking play for the kick to be taken when you set back up. The game switched in them 2 minutes, and I think Cartwright getting them in, giving them the Fergie treatment as you mentioned, we go on and win that game.
Just to point
think
out,
we go on and win. There's no guarantees, but I think we do.
On the Fergie treatment, because that's the infamous Alex Ferguson throwing a boot at David Beckham. When I said kicked a boot and hit him in the face, didn't it? I actually don't think, because Beckham was 7 wanted for Man U, your 7 deserved that. I think there was other players in the changing room that should have got the boot.
You said it, didn't you? I was like, oh, he's going in and doing whatever, and you're like kicking a boot at your number 7, and I'm like, I mean, Caesar's not the one that deserves it. Like, what does Caesar do?
It worked for the joke, but it wasn't fair on Caesar, because he was grafting. I'll tell you what, Caesar in the second half, across the game, but particularly in the second half, he made the right read 3 or 4 times where he shot out the line and shut down what would have been very good try scoring opportunities. And if it weren't for them, you could have been under a lot more points. And I think Caesar did very well there.
On the reverse side of that, when Asiata went off for his little break, they did that a few times to him in positions where we might have found a bit of space on the edge. So they were doing exactly the same to him as he was doing to them.
It was when Asiata went out for his head knock on it, and Knight come on at 13 and just didn't have that ball handling skills that Asiata has to be that first receiver. Yeah, he got shut down a few times. We'll get onto the cards in a second. The 2 tries we scored, really, really nice little tries. Like the offloads from Asiata to Herman for his try was brilliant. The offload from Herman to Cust as well when he got held up, that was really nice. But Litton's pass for Martin, that was beautiful.
Unreal bit of skill.
Yeah. So there was 2 positives out the game. The only really
very nice
positives.
try.
Yes,
very
really nice.
Before you go on to cards, then, you've just mentioned SAS here. Do you know where he's at? Is he still carrying a bit of a knock? Have they said anything?
I felt like he was carrying
looked
a
like
bit.
Third game in a row, he's not made over 100 metres. He only made 85 this game. 3 offloads, I think, again. Didn't seem to be having as bigger impacts as we have seen. And one game, we understand, sometimes he's well contained, like I spoke last week. I think we and Wigan contained him well, but he was still working hard. For me, I wouldn't say a quiet game is the right term, but he was not the player that started the season for me yesterday.
I think that... Go on.
No.
And that isn't bagging. I'm asking, do we know if he's still carrying the knock or whatever?
The difference for me, if you try and compare SASA in the last 3 games to the first 3 games of the season, one thing he didn't have, which we now don't have for probably a couple of weeks, Liam Knight. We were putting everything through SASA in the first 4 or 5 rounds of the season, and now it has evened up a little bit. We're using Knight a lot more. And he's taking some of the meters away from SA. So SA doesn't need to make as many meters as he did. He doesn't need to make as many offloads. He doesn't need to make as many carries, etc. I think a lot more is going through Knight. And statistically, I might be wrong. I haven't looked at the stats, but that's the only thing that I can
he
think
definitely
of.
has. It's dropped up from the beginning when I used to say, look, if you keep using the guy this way, he will burn out.
Yeah.
And
you called this about 4 or 5 weeks ago as well.
Yeah, but you've done the right thing. You've got somebody in. You've got somebody that is an idiot in what he's done in this game, but you have got somebody in to replace and to take some of that up. And the stats do show that. I was looking this morning, but I was more focused on, this isn't to say he didn't have a good game or
right. I've got a theory behind this.
I wondered if he was still carrying the injury.
I think Cartwright said during the week leading up to the game he was back in light training, and it was touch and go if he was going to be playing or not. For me, and I don't know if any of you noticed this, he went off for a head knock quite early. Did you see what happened to get that head knock? He was hit behind the play of the ball and he had to go off. So he'd gone off, he'd done his 10 minutes, come back on, then he'd come back to the bench, didn't come back straight back onto the game. But then when he did, I think we had to rotate him again just after our time. It felt like it was a very stop-start game for him. And SAS does big minutes. Maybe that works for him. Some forwards it works for. Some forwards they like to get spelled. He likes to play big minutes by the looks of it, and he just couldn't get into that rhythm. And then we went down to 12 and 11. So it just wasn't the game for him. I don't think it wasn't his type of game. What he would like to have played the big minutes. It was very stop-start, I think.
Which is a shame because Huddersfield are still quite a poor side and defensively lacking somewhat. A lot of missed tackles, sort of scrambling quite a bit, and that's where he would be at his best. Yeah, fair. Well, sort of summarised.
Cards.
Yeah.
We'll
gonna
go
have to.
Burgess first.
Right call.
Penalty.
Yeah. Yellow card. Off the ball. Late. Yellow card.
So I've only seen the replay from one angle, and I wouldn't mind seeing it from the other side because, and again, theorising, not saying he did, but does he make contact with the head?
Well, he goes off for a head, not.
Yeah,
Don't
I think
necessarily
that's 'cause of
mean
the
he's
way
made
his head
contact with the
snapped
head.
back, because
Right.
the commentator says in the commentary, ironically, when a player's passed the ball, they then relax. So
like a
he's
whiplash effect,
Then he's
isn't it?
been hit, so his body's in a relaxed state, and then his head's thrown back. So that's probably where the HIAs come from, rather than contact with the head. I didn't see any contact with the head.
I
but
didn't
it doesn't
see
mean there
contact
wasn't.
with the head, but I completely agree with Asimbinin, and I do think I've not seen a lot from Burgess this year to tell me that he should still be playing.
He looks overweight, I think.
Yeah,
he, looks,
he doesn't seem
You've seen
professional.
George Burgess.
And I just thought it was lazy, it was reckless. I think that 10 minutes was well deserved. I've got no gripes with it. I could be wrong. There could have been contact head. I don't recall seeing any even on the replays.
That's fair. The only reason I ask is because I could only see it from one angle, and it's the back angle. It's from. I'd be looking at Burgess through Asiata, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see.
I just thought it was a bit grubby.
Oh yeah, it's
Just a
definitely
little bit grubby.
No-
It was just
no
a bit
attempt to
late.
wrap.
No.
Part of the game. It's just what
Yeah.
was happening.
It
I
was.
think
It was.
It
Yeah,
was a
summed
game
up the
like
game.
that. It summed up what would, before the next incident. It kind of summed up to me what both teams had been trying to do, sort of trying to drag each other down and be a bit slow and grubby and a bit extra push and that. And it just felt like, well, actually, maybe they should settle the teams down now. Then they don't want to see more people walking.
But he just seemed to
fire
not
him up,
fire
even
him
more,
up.
Yeah.
So we've got. I think this was the softest one of the three. Was SA's yellow card. By the letter of the law, it's a yellow. No, yep, I get that. I don't like the fact it's a yellow. Ade can make the tackle. SA's arms out, ready to wrap, and he sort of more falls into him.
It's not just that. SA stops. By the time their players hit SA has stopped moving forward. He stood still. For me, it's a very soft yellow card.
It is. It's at the very, very bottom end of what a yellow card is, but I think it does just tip over into yellow card
Yeah,
territory.
and I'd have been happy penalty only. I'm not saying this is what happens, but the fracas that occurred afterwards, I think, sort of adds to this because I've got some problems with what happened after that.
So have
Yeah,
I.
me too.
Same as you.
I've got first problem is with SA himself, right? SA is in the middle of it, and he's the one that's made the foul, right? Then, when all the pushing and shoving's going on, and when he's been dragged away, he runs back in. Now, there's an argument he runs over to defend his teammates that have moved over to the sideline because they're ragging at each other. But in that moment there, you know the whistle's gone against you, and I know it's heat at the moment, but you could be asking to be in more trouble there because he's becoming the aggressor after conceding the foul, which I think is risky.
What starts that fracas off is SA. He falls into SA. SA then jumps on him to finish the tackle. I've got no problems with that, but that's what starts it off because the
Because he's a
Huddersfield
swinging arm,
players.
though.
yeah, but
That's
it's
what-
into the midriff. innit?
Yeah, there's no wrong with it, but that's why they run in.
Is that
And I
what-
think
Yeah.
it's the swinging arm, which is, it's not high.
He's finishing a tackle off.
Yes, but it is a grounded man, and it looks bad. If you see your teammate 10 yards in front and all you're seeing, a swinging arm looks like a punch. And
Yeah,
you know it's
yeah,
not.
okay.
You don't want to see your teammate on the floor getting a swinging arm into the ribs. You're going to go running in.
Especially after foul players.
This
like
is
with
why I
foul
call
players.
Susan an idiot in the group chat. I mean, I know she's not here today, but because he was saying, "Oh, that's the worst bit," and I'm like, "No, it's
No,
not."
it
Didn't even.
wasn't.
If he made contact with the head, fair
It was
enough.
not-
But it was into the ribs. It was into the gut. Like whatever.
It's
It
just
is
a
what it
bit
is.
cheeky, and my point there is Huddersfield running in and everyone piling in adds to all of it and gets the ref thinking about how bad is it and what's going on. What I would like to see, and we won't know till later today on the disciplinary, I truly believe that
Before you say it and before people call him out on it, I agree with this wholeheartedly.
Borough,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
I'll call him out, I think had a very poor game and was so trying to be involved in a niggle that he didn't have any time to play rugby on the day. He was involved in loads of little niggly
He's
bits.
done that quite a lot over
right?
this season from what I've
He
seen.
is in the
this-
middle of that melee, right? Melee.
He
melee?
runs around.
Right? He runs around And as everyone's grabbing and pulling by shirt collars, which is fine, he grabs Flanagan by the scrum hat and rags him away by the scrum hat, right? It's direct contact to the head, right? It's weak. It doesn't matter. You can't grab people by the scrum hat and start ragging
like
about.
pulling
right?
the hair in it.
It's like
Just
pulling.
don't do it.
Well,
If
you
he-
are
if he
pulling
grabbed
hair.
the
If
scrum
you're grabbing the
cap-
scrum hat, you're grabbing hair.
If you grabbed a scrum cap in a tackle, it's a penalty.
It's grubby, it's dirty, and I get frustrations of boiling over, but I'll be quite dismayed if he doesn't get picked
There was a
up
lot
for
of
it.
people around us who mentioned that yesterday.
He'll get-
So it's not just
And it
it's
says
not just
something.
you
Well,
calling us out. It's not.
the whole fans that don't like me,
But
I've
it's
just
not.
said I don't
There
want
was
Essay
whole
to get 10 minutes for that. I'm happy at penalty only. I'd rather he got 10 minutes for doing that,
Yeah,
and I want him to be
100%.
cited for it.
Yep, I
That
agree.
is dirty and grubby, and it gives your team and the sport a bad look.
What
says something,
Burrow
though, when-
did was 100% worse than what Essay did to get yellow carded.
Yeah. I mean, it says something when your own fans are saying...
There was a lot around us who mentioned
that's
it.
what I mean, yeah. Obviously, a lot of old fans there.
It-
And it says something when your own fans are saying something about it. Do you know what I mean?
I was surprised, genuinely surprised, when the ref didn't talk to him afterwards. And I don't think it'll go to the match review panel as direct contact to the head. I think that's a bit of an extreme way of looking at it, personally. But it is other contrary behaviour, as they call it.
Just
and
to
he will
explain
get
that.
points.
Yeah, just to explain that. I don't mean it in that way. What I mean
Not like
is...
a swinging arm to the
yeah,
head or
they
whatever.
brought the rule in. They've always had that. You can't pull the scrum out. You can't pull hair. Obviously, it's dirty. But as the rules have become a bit stricter over recent years,
Blared.
they have been more blaring. They have tried to push on that. If it's still contact to the head, it's irrelevant. If the intent's there, it's contact to the head as a way to penalise players that make contact with the head, and that's why sometimes you see them get penalised for the very soft ones.
Just
You
imagine someone walking up behind you and you've got something attached to your head and they just go, bang.
It's not like it comes off, is it? It's strapped under his chin.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
gonna-
That is it's
Also-
filthy.
Also, in the middle of all that, I'm all in. I want the biff back. I love it. You know, I messaged in the group about shoulder charges that I miss him, you know, because I thought they're great. I liked that. I've probably been guilty myself in the amateur game of grabbing someone's hair off scrum mat. I'll put my hands up and say
I
I
used
have.
to grab my hair and I played with you.
I was trying to drag you into position. But I just thought it was not only the worst part of that entire incident, I didn't like it, and I also just kind of thought it was such the epitome of what was going wrong with your team on the day, that a player felt the need to do that.
It's, at least for a long time, for someone in an FC shirt, it is the most disrespectful thing I've seen a player do on the pitch in black and white for, I can't remember.
For
as
2
far
weeks
back.
since Kush tried to kill Mark.
Lowacki and Burrow wears like that.
That was Burrow being disrespectful to himself.
That was class.
Yeah, it was awful. And then let's walk 10 seconds down the road.
Bearing in mind, after the referee has spoken
Referee's
with...
just pulled the captains out.
Was it Adam Clune who was their captain?
Clone
or
and
was it Leroy
Caesar,
Cudgett?
he's pulled them out. He's had a word with them. Right, we get it. Emotions are high. It's a big game,
You
big
control your
occasion.
guys.
You control you guys. You control your guys. There's a forward running it in. The hoot is just sounding. Nothing else is happening. The forward has got it tucked under his wing. It's only going to go one way. You tackle him. He's not going to pass it out. They're not going to ship it. They're not going to try and score on the last play. Nothing's going to happen apart from you make a tackle.
End
you
the
go
half.
off. End the half. You go get your rollicking.
On that point, to back that up, a lot of the Huddersfield players, after they'd kicked up, hadn't even bothered to come up, and that's why in the aftermath of what you're about to talk about, there wasn't as big of a pile on as there was.
They
for
was
the
halfway off the pitch.
They were looking at the tunnel.
Yeah, because they was already thinking, we'll take a 1-man up, so there was nothing special about it, I agree.
It was a half-hearted 80% run up. It wasn't running. It was that typical. The hoot has gone.
You see it
Take the ball
every
in.
week,
Referee's
don't
going to
you?
blow his whistle. We go off. Then Liam Knight decides, stuff that. I want to add a bit more
I'm gonna
spice to
kill
this
him.
game.
I'm
Yeah,
putting
I'm
my
going to kill
shoulder
him.
through him.
It was just the biggest brain fart I've seen for years. It was just ridiculous.
It's
and
not
he's cost his team so much.
It's not just that brain fart, though, in that split second. It's the idiocy from him. And to be fair, Caesar, 3-4 minutes later, or however long it was for him to look at it on video, for Caesar to turn around and say, what else is he meant to do? And then Knight to come down and say, effing embarrassing. I'm like, you've had 3 minutes to calm down and sort yourself out and watch that on the screen and see that you've put your shoulder through the guy's face. and you want to call the ref embarrassing.
What-
You're the embarrassment
What
in
do
that
you want
moment.
him to do from Caesar, right? What do you want him to do, right? I've seen the same comment online a million times, and I hope we're all on the same point with this. What do you want him to do? Make an attempt at a legal tackle. Don't put your shoulder into somebody's
You
chin.
don't even have to make a proper tackle. You put your arms around this guy, and that guy's not going to try and drive it because he's in the sheds. He's ready to go for half
If
time.
Knight moves his arm, right, and still makes that contact, he gets sin-binned. There's mitigation that he's caught him high, but he's going for a tackle, and you're probably struggling because you've got a man gone for another 10, and the ref's going to have a serious word with the team and say, I've just warned you, and that's reckless.
Bend
Let's
your
have
back,
a word.
put some effort in.
Yeah.
That's it.
But he doesn't even make the attempt to do that.
So there's what we've got here in the space of 3 minutes on the field. You've got SA. He's going to get cited for his challenge, even though he got a yeller, and I think it was soft. He'll get cited for that. Burrow, 100%, he's going to get cited for that. Knight's going to get cited for putting his shoulder through someone's face and trying to send him to Mars, and then he's going to get cited again for being disrespectful to the referee. So the man that's come in to take the pressure off SA, who's now potentially carrying an injury, is going to be out for potentially, 3, 4, 5
That's
weeks?
the worst thing, isn't it? It's not the challenge is probably going to receive a lesser.
It's the
grading
other contrary
than the other
behaviour that
contrary
Burrow will
behaviour,
also get cited with.
What I don't understand, I know I'm bagging on O'Leary and that's fine, but I don't understand. I've said about the Caesar bit, I don't understand what he's asking, but I don't understand what is effing embarrassing about it. What is embarrassing about giving a player a red card?
That's one of these. Oh no, what have I done?
He's trying to deflect.
He's trying to deflect a little bit, and it's that emotion just coming straight out, and more. He knows what he's done wrong, but he's still trying to process
Do you
it
know
in his
what
own
it
head.
reminded me of? Honestly, what it reminded me of? Who was that idiot last year who got red carded for you? Who, with big swinging arm playing against us?
Pele.
Pele, when he was real smug, stood there looking, not even looking at the referee, as if it was like, I don't care what you do. It stank of that same awful attitude. Yes, not quite as bad, because he was sort of talking to the ref, but I thought, you're not winning any favours here, mate. You're not winning anyone over. You're making yourself look worse.
I know we can't make decisions from just individual events like this, but we've said as a group a number of times about the fact that stink, that rot, that toxicity in our club seems to have gone. And Knight coming in has done a pretty decent job. He's took a lot of the workload off SA. He's taken a lot on himself. He's making a good impact on the field. Things like that, that's what makes me question whether he's the right person to be in and around our team.
No, he's done one thing wrong since coming.
Why,
Yes, it was a big thing.
Hold on. That's why, at the beginning of all that, I said you can't make these decisions off of one thing. Okay. But that type of thing is the type of thing we don't want. I'm not saying
he
that
did get
is,
sin-binned last week.
But, yeah, I know he did. I've got a list of them all.
Card happy, innit?
It's...
Do you know what? I changed on him as well. I was bagging on him when you first got him. And you guys talked to me and said, give it a watch and see. We spoke about it on the pod, I believe. And I started to pick up on what you've just said about spelling time with SA and doing some of the hard work. And he's a good running forward and he was bending his back and stuff. But so he did sort of tear my opinion, say this guy can play proper at a decent level. But now...
I want you to say it because you're the one that will get the most hate for it and it'll be funny. What were the Aussies saying on Reddit?
Yeah, so I wanted to show the guys back for context so you could see it from all angles because there was... Granted, I will say on social media I've seen a lot of Hull fans being fair assessment of your team, poor, not good enough. There is obviously idiotic ones like the can't write out ones and stuff like that. But there are... Yeah, I know.
No.
But there are still...
Are they on about Jed?
Yeah. There are still... there was still a few comments, a few of them talking about he never makes contact with the head, the RFLs are a disgrace, they shouldn't be a card at all. And do you know, like, people that are just really seeing it with black and white specs? And I
will add context to that. The two images that you see on the highlights don't show contact to the head. The angles that you see, but it was that third angle that you showed me, you could see direct contact.
So I wanted to
head.
show these before we spoke about it today, so that was on the same page that you can clearly see no attempt to wrap, shoulder to head, and so on. And it was shared through the NRL subreddit, not the Super League one, so you got all the Aussies input. And all the Aussies were just going down the thing of like, I can't believe some of these players still play. not just about Knight, but about like Clune as well, playing for Huddersfield. Some of these players are like rejects that we thought would be retired by now, and then they go down and are like, we always knew Knight was an idiot. Obviously bringing up the fact that he sprayed aerosol in his mouth to try and get out of a drink driving charge before from years ago. So saying that they know that he's not the sharpest tool. Saying about they can't believe that he's with quite a famous news, I think a journalist in Australia, maybe a sportscaster.
Danica, someone who works for Fox.
He must be well endowed because she's obviously not with him for his intelligence. And honestly, the list just went
what
on.
they was all saying?
What did they say about his shirt number?
Oh, that was my favourite one.
The reason that he wears number 40 is not because that's his shirt number for the club. It's because that's his IQ. Wow. And honestly, if you think Rovers fans are going to give it, and I'm giving it beans about what's happened today, go and read the comments on the NRL sub-Robert and see, because they bag him, and they bag him big time. And unfortunately, when you stick your shoulder into someone's face like that, you're probably asking for it, aren't you?
Right. Yeah, I think it's been really difficult for us this today to try and do anything other than kind of bag on our own team, because the performance that we put in, there were some okay instances. You mentioned Cust, I think Litton as well. I don't think he did bad. I think he got caught up in the moment. He's a young kid. He's going to get caught up with what's going on around him.
Ardeka, Asiata did okay. But yeah,
overall, the overall attitude,
learn from it, put it to bed. Yeah.
And Ardeka has come out and said that Cartwright has basically told them to get their overalls out this week because they're getting put through the paces on the week off.
Good.
So,
I like
which
it.
is what they need.
One injury, as we know of. We don't know the extent of it. Barron went off for a hip injury. Like I say, we don't know the extent of it. We'll probably find that out over the course of the week, so hopefully not long term.
If we keep going at this rate, we'll know the judiciary decisions by
Yeah,
the
I know.
time we
Right,
finish.
let's-
That's you guys. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I know it is. Anyway, right. Let's wrap that up. FC were awful. Rovers were okay against a really poor team.
Shout out to us for all back in Hull in the Predictions League. And not a single person in our Predictions League back in Hull to win.
Back in Hull.
Huddersfield to win, sorry.
Yeah,
everyone
no.
back in Hull. And only 3% of users on Superbrew backed Huddersfield.
Wow.
They must have been Huddersfield fans.
Yeah.
Probably.
All 10 of them.
Yeah.
Right. Tribal. Obviously the home of the pod. Oh, we didn't actually mention that at the beginning. Tut.
Probably not obvious that we're here.
Yeah, no, there's just big T. Yeah, so Tribal this week, we've
that's
got...
the T.
Shh. Tribal this week. Saturday the 10th, we've got Rovers Catalan Challenge Cup semi-final, 2:30 kickoff. That'll be shown in here. Sunday the 11th, we've got Warrington versus Lee. That's 4:15 kickoff. That again will be shown in here, all on the big screen. Then on the 13th, Tuesday the 13th, Tribal's got their monthly quiz, their themed quiz. It's a weird theme. I don't get it, but come, it'll be fun. It's boy band versus girl group speed quiz. £5 per team, maximum 6 in a team, 7 p.m. start, prizes to be won, mini games during. I might come for a laugh. I know quite a lot about Five and
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
NSYNC.
Five will
You
make
did
it get
really
down.
well on your boy bands there.
yeah, 5.
One.
Well, they normally all got 5 people on, haven't they? So, and then lastly, 15% off if you're a season pass holder. As Amy confirmed last week, you don't have to book, but it is food and you have to have food and drink on the bill. Okay, so buy a load of food and then just order like one small shot of baby Guinness and you're all good. And that's it. Now we can talk about. Are we doing a magic roundup? I don't think we got time now. We went over with FC, didn't we?
Yeah. Just a
Magic
we'll
roundup.
just shout out
Saturday
to
was
the
crap.
attendance. Overall attendance of 64,156. Sunday had the highest ever recorded for a Sunday. That was 32,862. It was the 6th highest ever out of the 18 events, and it's the highest since the event was held in Newcastle in 2018. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's been confirmed for 2026 back in Newcastle. Boo. Which James doesn't like.
I'm the only person that doesn't
think
like
we
it in
approve.
Newcastle.
In the world, I think.
No, I think Newcastle as a place, yeah, and I think with the stack that they've got outside of the stadium now, which is a fantastic thing that they've done outside the stadium, it basically just like
Like a box
containers.
park, yeah.
It's a box park. It's brilliant, and why they haven't done that yet on the old 5G pitches at the MKM is beyond me. But it's such a cheap, plausible idea to do in that area.
Cheap in the grand scheme of things, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's a couple of containers and a bit of iron going to cost? Next
Quite a
to
lot
nothing.
nowadays.
For Adjan and Fairkill, probably next to nothing.
Skint, aren't they?
What, Adjan might be. Well, no, stayed up, didn't they? Stayed up.
Just.
Yeah, so I think as a place, I think it's a really good place. I just don't like the stadium. I think it's flat. There's no atmosphere. There's no chance there'll ever be an atmosphere at that stadium. It's too big.
Too big, which is the problem. I understand where you're coming from. My gripe, as always, I know it's hard to work it out. I want derbies there. I know people have to give up a home derby, you know, but you have a Wigan and a Saints, you have us playing each other. I like the vibe when we play each other at Magic. I think it keeps people in the ground longer. It stops people.
I'm glad it won a derby after
Well, of course.
having 2 already this year.
And that's not just because we had obviously a bit of a training session and we had probably what was the poorest game overall to watch. Because even yours was poor, but it was entertaining because of everything that happened. It doesn't add to excitement. I don't think it forces people to stay in the stadium. So then you drop numbers as well. And yes, you did have one to close out yesterday in Wakey and sort of Cast, but even that ended up being a bit of a dead rubber in some ways.
I think if it's a looped fixture, if Ulham Rovers is a looped fixture, it should definitely be at Magic. Because your Magic is one of your looped fixtures, isn't it?
No, it's picked out of league position from the year before.
Yeah.
That's the same way the looped fixtures are, isn't it?
Yeah, you are right.
Anyways,
Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I don't know where we're going to play Magic next year, but probably Newcastle. I wish it was somewhere.
Dean's just said
smaller,
it's
but-
confirmed.
No, he says it. He didn't say it's confirmed.
I think it's confirmed.
They've
Is
confirmed
it actually confirmed? All right, so they've confirmed
I'm
the
confirming
event.
it now.
They've
Yeah.
confirmed the
Josh has
place,
done
but
it.
not the time. Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So, a little preview for your little run out this weekend.
Heart drops again a little bit there. Nevs.
I mentioned it twice, and you've done more size than he's done.
I know, but I don't know.
Will we... We've had all the banter about it. Will we get a better opportunity at Silverware with Wigan out the competition? We've heard it. We've heard how much of a favour all have done us by knocking them out.
Your own fans have said that.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, who's the one team that gives me that? I don't know. We've got a chance here. It's always Wigan. At the minute, the way we've been playing last season and into this season, even though this season's had its ups and downs in some ways with performance, I back ourselves against every other club in the team in the league. I really do think we've got a chance, but Wigan makes me question, and they're not in. So now it's get the job done. We know what we're capable of. We're not saying it's a guaranteed win for us. It's going to be a tough game. Catalan are a decent side. We need to go out there, stick to our plan, play how we can, and hopefully come away with a result. And if I've said this several times already this year and been wrong, we play the way we know we can, we should be 10 to 14 points the winner. My heart tells me we're not going to do that, and we've got another lead in our hand.
So you could argue in the derby you didn't perform as you would normally perform. Maybe you took your eye off the ball going down to 12 men, thought the game was won. Leeds, you said you made Leeds look good. You didn't turn up. Salford didn't really turn up. You got the points. You got the 2 points, which is at the end of the day, which is all that mattered. But some would say the attitude wasn't where it should be. Does them 3 results are they worrying you? Do you think you maybe had an eye on this semi-final in a few weeks' time back then?
Yeah, I think so. I think you'll see a different Rovers this week.
I think you will.
You'll see a
I
very
think you'll see a
different
switched-on
Rovers side this
Rovers, a Rovers that's ready to get to a final.
And the crowd's going to be massive as well. 8,500 stadium, 7,500 Rovers fans in there. You know, next to no Catalan fans. It's like a home game basically. So we just need to be loud and proud and sing the boys home.
Of course we do. And I'm trying to see. I don't want this to come across as like a cocky comment or an arrogant comment.
That wouldn't suit you anyway.
We've won all them games despite this. So we are guilty of looking too far into our own performance sometimes and being too sort of judgy about
Looking
it.
for too much
being
perfection.
too critical. We've still won them games. And the talent's still there and the ability to play the way we know we can is still there. And we've managed to turn it on in patches in all them games. We can still do that against Catalan. We ain't playing Wigan. And I still think that it'd be great to have that full as close to an 80-minute performance as possible and to not see what we've seen the last few weeks. But we are being a little bit too harsh on ourselves. We're being harsh on a team that have just won 54-0 at the weekend. Forget what the team you
But
played
that's the
was.
standard you've set in it.
But yes, it was expected, that's fine, but we didn't concede against them. We played Huddersfield 5-6 weeks ago when they was at the very worst of their season, before they was getting players back. And we managed to turn them over 48-6 because we actually conceded a great try against them. So we've actually learned something from that. Because at the time, Salford were better than Huddersfield. It's changed since then. So we've got to look on the positives, and that's where I say actually we're a bit too harsh on ourselves sometimes. And yes, we're nervous for the game, of course we are. I'm not going to be confident until the final whistle's gone. But if anything, we've got a hell of a chance. I'm backing again what Peters does, the way he trains our team, the way he sets us up with a game plan, and the choices he makes in the team. He's not led us wrong yet. We've got to go on that. So I'm nervous, but somewhat
I've got
excited.
a question. You booked your hotels for Wembley yet?
Yes.
I can only go for the day, so no, but I am running a coach if we get there.
And that isn't again a cocky. I've booked it because we're going. That's just a case of I've got it booked, and there's a cancel. You can cancel.
I
within
did it
4
I was
hours.
going to
17,
say, if you booked
16,
one, you can
Yeah, well,
cancel.
you don't want to get there, and then everyone's got the same mad rush. When, as I say, I'll be there on Saturday with 7,500 others, but all of a sudden we get to Wembley, and then we sell 22,000 tickets, and loads of people want to stay down there.
I'll be honest, if God forbid I was a Rovers fan, I'd have had, as soon as the date got announced for the Challenge Cup final, I'd have had a tentative booking done, because the way that you performed last season, it just makes sense to just in case, and it's free to cancel anyway, so just get it booked.
Yeah,
I can
I've
only
got
go
it
for the
booked.
day. So
Same if I was a Wigan fan, I'd do exactly the same. I'd just book the hotel just in case, get it in there, so I'm not
I
going
mean,
to miss
people
out.
do it every year anyway, don't they? Whether it's their club or not.
I don't.
No, I didn't say
I
you.
I'm an
I
old
did
fan.
it in 2019 when we got beat by Warrington in the semi-final. I had a hotel provisionally booked just in case, and I did it in 16, 17. Just yeah.
I've often gone to Challenge Cup final and the Grand Final, and I even used to back before Rovers were in the Super League. I used to enjoy going to them, and for many years I would go regardless and watch rugby and watch a final. So it's not just on that, and I'm not saying if we slip up on Saturday and I'll still go.
I'll have your room if you want,
But
because I'll go if you're not there.
yeah, but I might still. I've got get the tickets, got the hotels there, So yeah, but I've booked it. So
Pretty much what Josh said sums it all up.
Yeah.
I don't really need
I
to
pers-
go into any further detail with that. So.
I think if you turn up, play the game, not the occasion, you perform to about 80% of what you can, you'll beat Catalans. They're nothing great, but
I mean,
it's
Lee
a
went
semi-final,
brilliant
it's
at
a cup
weekend,
game.
and Lee
You
turned
never
him
know.
over. So
So
We'll see.
Warrington Lee, then what's going to happen there?
it'll be very interesting because Warrington still got no halfbacks, and although they ran Wigan close yesterday, they played Ratchford at 6 and Leyland at 7. So that probably looks like it's going to be for them moving forward what they're going to go with.
There are worse players to have.
Leyland, who's pretty much been dropped since the Vegas game,
Yeah.
because of his defensive sort of liabilities.
He was very poor that night, wasn't he?
He turned up yesterday. He was better defensively for me. He had a decent game. They only lost by 2. Wigan only just beat them. Warrington showed a lot of fight and a lot of heart. And Ratchford, in some ways, rolled back the years for me. He's so slow moving sideways. Like, in the defensive line, he can't slide quick enough to keep up with the players around him. It makes him a liability. But going forward, he had flashes of brilliance. He had some good kicks and he had some good attacking plays. So they're not in bad shape with people that have got that rugby brain and people that have got that experience. But I can't see them having enough for Lee. And you match up player to player. There are some great players in Wire that are still playing. Roderick Tye, people like that. Dufty gives as he takes away. He makes free errors and misses tackles for tries, but then also sets up free tries.
He'll beat 17 players.
Yeah, I've always said from day one, Dufty's great for an amazing try game, but he's also great for one error that costs you massively in a game. But for me, Lee and future Rovers halfback Lockie Lamb have got too much.
I've heard that as well. Massive rumour.
Massive
Is
rumour going
Mikey's
around.
replacement then when Mikey goes to West?
Tyrone
It's for
May's
me,
replacement.
isn't it?
End of this season for next season.
He
Massive
signed a new
rumour.
deal. I mean, we're not going to get into that, but
Yeah.
all right.
Buy him
Yeah, you'd
all
have
of
to
it.
No,
pay
we've signed
for
his dad as well. Assistant coach.
Who would you prefer in the final if you was to get there?
100% Lee.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I'd have preferred Lee.
Is that just because you want payback, or is
Yes.
that because... Yeah, all right.
Yes,
I
know.
think you've got their number, and I think by the time the final rolls around, you might have Williams and Snead to contend with in the team.
And
I
Warrington have been there many, many times
And they know what to do.
know how to win them games, know that occasion. Whereas, yes, Lee beat us a couple of years ago before you all get in there, but
I think you've got the number.
we're still the same sort of experience level in finals, maybe a little bit more than Lee, but not quite as much as Warrington.
Lee
So, I'll take Lee.
God, touch
Don't say
wood.
it.
This
do,
is thingy.
do not say it.
Lee don't have anything, as I said earlier about Wigan's, the team I worry about in our league now. Lee don't offer anything for me to worry about. We have well and truly got their number, and this could come back to bite me. I get that if we get them in the final and lose, because that's a possibility. But Warrington, as you say rightly, Snead potentially back. He's had some poor showings of late before his freak injury. You know, unfortunately happened. He's out, but he could be back. Snead's a big game player. He knows how to turn up and lead a team. Williams is a very good halfback. I do rate him. They could be back, and I wouldn't want to play that. Now, if I could play him against a Ratchford and a Leyland, yeah, maybe it'd be good. But for me, I know Lee have got that. First of all, they've got that ability and that skill. I do think we've got the number, and I'd like to prove that right. But also, the payback aspect of it is huge for me.
It is, but I feel, but I can never remember the name of that bloody fullback. What's Lee's one?
Miller. No, not Miller. Yeah.
That's Leeds.
They've got Bailey Hodgson playing there at the minute. Lee.
Armstrong.
Yeah, the Armstrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can never account for what he's going to do, and a bit less so with Lamb.
Is he back
But-
though this week, Armstrong? Because he's been out the past few weeks.
I'm
hasn't
on
he?
about the final though. Like, so I mean, he might not be back this week, and Bailey Hodgson will do a decent job filling in. But if he's back for the final, you never know what he's going to do. So he is a danger, regardless of where he is on the field. And I look through the Warrington team, and yeah, they've got Dufty, but people have kind of got accustomed to what he can do. They've got Williams, but he's not quite what he was 5 years ago, in my opinion. I think Lee have got more strike players in Lamb and Armstrong than Warrington have, and I think you should be more worried about Lee than Warrington.
Andy Pape.
Yes.
And Pape and Hanley.
That's quite fair. I do think that's all fair. I think with Warrington, it's just that they're going through a bit of a bad run at the minute, and they've had games like the game against you where they've been particularly poor. You forget that they have great players that have that strike rate as well. Like Dufty, as
That
much
was
as
because
bagged
all
on
made
it.
them look poor.
Yeah. Dufty can just turn it on. So can Fulis. So can Williams. Snead, we know he's a big game player. Then you've got people like Ty, big hitting in the centres. You've got both the Fulises who played yesterday, the brothers, who linked up for a great try, you know, setting each other up. They've got players on there that, as you say, it's a tough one to call between them. I don't know, but I think I'd rather, probably in my head, wrongly against my heart saying I'd rather, if we could get there and we do make the final, I'd want the revenge on Lee.
I know we're not doing a predictions part of the predictions league this week, but we may as well, while we're on the subject of the Challenge Cup, what have you got a prediction for both the
Rovers.
games?
Oh, head and heart with Rovers, I think. Like Josh said, it could be a potential, like, similar to the Leeds game, but then we could also win by
Here's a prediction.
14-16. I did it in the derby. I was sort of toing and throwing, and I said Rovers by 12-16. I'm going to go Rovers by 14.
Makes sense that, because that's halfway between 12 and 16.
I wrote it down just then. Rovers by 14, I've got written here.
I've got Rovers by 16.
I think it's going to be tighter than that. I think Catalan might step up to the
Up a
occasion
little
a bit, so I'm going to go Rovers by 8.
About the Lee Wire game.
Very close for me. I think there's 2 to 4 points in it. So Lee by 3, going down the middle.
I've got Lee by 4.
Lee by 2.
I was going to go Lee by 4.
Wow.
We're
So
all very,
on
very
the
close
same
there, aren't
sort
we?
of Ideas. So on to predictions then.
Yes,
Well,
let's have a
we've just
roundup.
done that, yeah. Quick rundown of the top 3 as you'll be able to see on the screen. Fredders stays at the top,
Yeah, he's having a smashing
He
season.
is,
He's
yeah. I think he's got
Patreon, friend of the pod.
58 points.
Going to the semi-final with me. Well, I'm going with him on Saturday. You know, absolutely smashing
So
it.
yeah, shout out to Fredders being top at this stage, sort of roughly just over a third of the way through the season,
And he's a paying member on Patreon.
and is a paying member on Patreon.
So if he carries on,
I don't know who is going to win, so just jump in.
I just know that Fredders is.
All right, fair
I think
enough.
I forced him to one day.
Second is Mike Carter from Hull KR Shirts. I was chatting with him at the wedding on Saturday. Top bloke, So yeah,
The wedding.
shout out to him. My cousin's wedding.
The wedding.
Oh,
The
okay, just
wedding.
The wedding.
The
yeah.
wedding.
It's on
Like the royal
TV.
wedding.
Found it on Netflix.
And then rounding off the top three, we've got Mark Hutch in third. So
Black and white.
shout out to
Come
them
on,
three.
Hutch, do us a favour, mate. They're way over, like, done with the Rovers fans in this league.
So on to the presenters and our standings. Now this is where it gets interesting.
I love how he turned a page then as if it'd been hidden the entire time.
Well, yeah, actually, as not by luck or by judgment, but no, more by luck.
Presenters and Susan.
Yeah,
he
anyways.
means.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, out of the four of us, I sit top on 55 points. Susan is also on 55 points. I sit above him by virtue of the fact that I've got the closer winning margins overall. Mine's 800 overall, and Susan's is 870. So that's 55 points. And we sit 5th and 6th in the league, respectively. 7th, Dean, with 54.5. Josh in 9th with 54.5. Again, 804 plays 865. So again, very, very tight. There, 61 points in that. That could go in the space of a week or two. And then, yes, you bottom. You're not a million miles away.
No, point and a half behind.
13th, 53 points.
Yeah.
So there's
So
2 points covering the five. Wow.
Covering 5th to 13th and all those guys.
Yeah, it's
So-
mad
That's a
how
week.
close
You
it
can
is.
swing that in a week. So you can go from bottom of the five of us to top within
To
a week
top within
easily.
a
With
week.
Yeah,
that.
we could all pick the same result,
But winning
I
margins.
could get a point and a half back just by getting the winning margins right.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
week alone, we all had the same win, so we all picked up the same point, but obviously the margins counted, apart from Susan, who backed Saints in the Saints and Leeds game. So they've cost themselves that extra point there.
Andy
Did
said
any
he
of
should
us
have backed
get
Huddersfield.
any bonus points? I didn't get any
I got
bonus points.
1/2 a point for the league game.
Oh, actually, I think I did because didn't I have Leeds by.
I had lead by 4.
Yeah, you got the Leeds game.
I don't think I got any bonuses.
I got lead by 4 and they won by 2. So
Even though my heart wanted me to put a big Rovers score in,
Yeah.
it felt wrong. And it just felt as if it'd be too arrogant to be like Rovers by 40.
Yeah, I got the half point for Leeds by 10.
Wow.
I had Rovers by 30, and
Let-
even I felt that was harsh.
Let's hope that continues for the rest of the
Oh,
season.
I want it to go down to the final
The last week.
I
So
was good.
good.
I had Rovers by 36. I was way ahead of everyone. One I was like, yeah,
6
Rovers
in
by
front of me,
36.
yeah.
You'll smash
Yeah,
them,
we
and
was
then you
30,
just
weren't we?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That sums up a
Done.
entertaining, non-entertaining weekend of magic.
Yeah.
The thing is, the most entertaining thing about this entire Magic weekend was nothing to do with rugby. It was stupidity and aggression from Hull FC.
I thought you was going to say the Stoltzman brothers with Carney and Wilkin on the shoulders. Just sat there for 10 minutes just with them on the shoulders
I
like
saw
it was
a
nothing.
clip of that and I thought that's just stupid.
It's funny.
It was stupid.
Behave.
Oh, you're
It was
real
in the
down
middle
and
of the
bitter,
whole
aren't you?
game. It was in the middle of the whole
Right,
game.
okay,
While
yeah.
still
It
were
was
playing, I was like, that's
stupid.
stupid. Like,
Team lost. Loads of stupid decisions.
It
If
was
you don't
5
like
minutes after the
Newcastle,
red card.
You're so
It was
bitter.
Right,
stupid.
okay, yeah, fair enough.
All right.
When you put context onto it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was sober and I was driving. Like, just what an awful day.
I won.
You went in 2 cars.
Right, that's
That
it.
wraps us up.
Done.
Yeah, thanks again to Comscaf for being our sponsor and for Tribal for being our host and the home of the pod. And we'll see you next week, hopefully with Rovers out the cup.
Some great news for us, and then some sad faces over that side.
Now new.
Well,
Anyway,
no, but
that's it. See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
see you, bye.